mad at one another. And I had a few experiences there. We we messed with machine guns. I tore one apart and learned how to tear it apart and how to repair it and put it back together. The M1, we had to tear that apart, put it back together in a certain length of time, and we were on forced marches most of the time. And I know I missed out. I got sick or something. I don't know just what it was. About 3 or 4 of us. They sent us out. We had to take. I had to fire the bazooka, which was an experience because I forget how far. It was about 300 yards from it, I guess. When I shot it, it hit about 150 yards out there and bounced, and it hit the target dead center. It was on a tank. I don't think it would have even made it. If it probably when it hit out there, if it had been a real one, it would have probably exploded. But I hit the target anyway, dead center. And we had I took training on a 45 submachine gun.
Thompson.
Was a Thompson and what we call the grease gun. It looked like a grease gun. I don't know what it was, but it was all the time messing up, plugging up. It wouldn't fire half the time.
It's an M3.
Yeah, it looked like a grease gun. Is what it really looked like. And I didn't make out so good on a machine gun because I guess I missed everything I fired at. I don't know what I did wrong, but I couldn't hit it anyway. Let's see, what other weapons? Oh, I had the mortar. Learned how to line that up and how to fire it. So forth on that. That was quite a thing. We took turns. One guy would fire it and the other one would load it. It had something to do with when you dropped the shell into the tube. Before you did, they had certain ranges, like 100, 200, 300 yards, and they had little tapes in the ends and the fins. And for the certain yardage that you want, you had to take out so many or leave so many in. And then when you fired it, you got that range. But they also, the sighting on it was a little thing like was a leveler, sort of like a little line level. And you had to line that thing up and get it leveled at a certain place and then
certain angle.
A certain angle, and they would drop the shell in and boom, it was gone. It was like, I don't know how they, really I never looked at one real that close, but it acted like it had maybe a shotgun shell. When you dropped it in, hit bottom, it exploded the shell and
then it went up.
Fired, it went up, fired. And let's see how they, whatever, anyway.
The 03, right, Springfield?
Well, no. We had an M1 right off the bat.
Oh, the Grand?
Oh, no, we didn't. We had an 03 for a while. I think a couple of weeks, and then they changed us over, and we had the M1 after that. We had to know the serial number on the rifle.
You remember your serial number?
I can't remember that one. But they'd have an inspection every once in a while, and the first thing they asked you was, if they stopped, the officer stopped in front of you, wanted to know what the serial number of your rifle was, and you had to reel it right off. Because if you didn't, well, then there was so many gigs they gave you for this or that or something else, or KP or whatever.
Right.
And now I see him slap that rifle around that. So he'd pick that down to your hand and slap it down, looking down the bore and back the other end. And he threw it at you sideways on kind of a port action.
Yeah.
And you had to catch it. One funny thing, we was talking about the 03, it had a safety on the side, and you could reach over with your foot to the next guy over, and if you push that little slider back on the side, would kick it out of, kick the safety off. And when you come to port on one of those, when the guy next to you that you did this to, he pulled the bolt back, you snapped the bolt up and back, and when you snapped it back, if you kicked that little thing off, the bolt kept right on going and stick in the ground behind you. You'd get even with the next guy behind the side of you that way. And then we graduated, of course, to the M1, and we spent hours taking them things apart and putting them back together. And we spent hours out on the bayonet field too. How to take on 1 man, 2 men, 3 men and win. And then they had simulators out there. There was a post sticking there. It was with 1 arm out like this. And you had to knock it aside and stick the guy where his throat would be. Of course, we were using those big 18-inch old, let's see, World I bayonets. And that thing was, after about a couple hours, it got pretty heavy. And then you would get into this deal they had for bayonet practice was, you started out at port, and you made a lunge like this. You had a long thrust, you had a short thrust, and then you had a smash and a slash. And when you ended up with a slash, you was right back in your former position that you started with a bayonet, with a short, long thrust.
Ready to do it again.
Yeah, ready to start over again. And that series, we did that at least once or twice a day. It was up about 5:30 in the morning. And calisthenics for a couple hours, and then you had to go through a bayonet course, and then this other deal, and then anyway, by the time you got back to where you started from, it'd be 5 o'clock at night. Then of course you had to stand reveille and start all over again, or not reveille, but retreat, and start all over again. It was different.
I bet.